so thanks everybody for being here. A couple quick introductions to get out of the way. I think I've already greeted everybody here, but my name is Andrew Hoffman. I'm a business analyst with CCP, and I'm just helping facilitate getting everybody here and putting this all in place. A couple other people to note here. We've got Tracy Morano, do our operations director, Scott Mendenhall, deputy director, and Christy Barber, the CCP administrator. You guys, other than name, do you want to introduce yourself to anything, or put you on the spot?
I think Kristen's probably prepared. I'm not.
Speeches.
Yeah. No, thank you. We really appreciate you all coming and being part of this really important advisory committee. I think the work that you're going to do is going to be critical for the legislature in 2025 to help really define what 948 has done. Kathy and Shane are here as representatives from the Department of Revenue. They can provide you kind of what they've done up to date. And we have already kind of identified maybe a couple of pain points with 948 that we want to bring to your attention that we can hope maybe to bring forward to the Economic Affairs Interim Committee to provide some input to that law. The work you're going to do will likely be very challenging. There are some definitions that the legislation has asked you to call out. We are happy to provide you guidance for part of what's called CAMR, which is the Cannabis Association, or Cannabis. I have to think what CAMR stands for. Radio Here's Association. Yeah, thank you. And we're part of that, along with 36 other states. Many other states are dealing with synthetic cannabinoids or intoxicating hemp. And some of the challenges are helping to define what is synthetic and also what is intoxicating. And so that is kind of what this advisory council is going to do. We have staff available to be as helpful as you need. We have the ability to do research if you need us to do, but we also want to make sure that you feel empowered as the council. We want to make sure that the department is supportive, but not feeling like we've invested to any kind of, we have no agenda here. And so really just want to see the good work that comes out of this body and then, yeah, see where that takes us for the next 2025 legislative session. So again, thanks for your time and commitment to this.
I'll focus on that. First, thank you. Taking your time and effort to help hold this and support this. And this is still very new. This is something that's come on the scene that we didn't really anticipate. It's all of a sudden kind of a big deal. And I recall Dr. Beatty's vision statement for the Department of Revenue, citizen-oriented tax agency, most efficient. This is what this is about. We don't pretend to know all this. We tend to understand the impacts on businesses and each point as a stakeholder in this. So we want to hear from you. We want to be as much as possible within the law, aligned with what's going to the industry for the stakeholders. So we've had some other working groups that we have worked with them about important tax topics. We have some others that we were doing in addition to this one. But it's not just a perfunctory effort here. It means something to us. We really do want to have whatever comes out of this, have you feel like we had a say in that, and we heard you. So that's my sense about this. We've had some success, and we think that this will be very good for us and for ultimately the citizens of Montana.
And so I would appreciate if we could go around the room and introduce who you are and with, that'd be great.
My name is John Spear, and I'm lab director for Fidelity Diagnostics Laboratory, which is licensed by the state Department of Revenue. And I've been in the role of a lab director for a marijuana testing lab now since 2018. So I've been seeing a lot of the development of the here in Montana, but I've been watching it since about 2011 nationally. So I have a lot of insight. I've worked in other environments regulated by FDA, and also been a researcher at the National Institute of Postdoctoral Researchers. So I bring a lot of a broad array of expertise, but also just focused on the marijuana industry and also cannabis in general.
This is Steve Crawford. I'm the Bureau Chief of the Narcotics. And I'm here on behalf of the Department of Justice, and I was instructed to come over and determine if I'm the best person
to represent the Department of Justice on this particular advisory. Yes.
I'm Yona Barrett. I work for the Canada Department of Agriculture. I'm the lab director both in my own lab. And we run the regulatory hemp program at our lab. Our state goes out and collects hemp samples and make sure it's hemp, marijuana. However, we do have some MOUs with the Department of Justice, the Department of Revenue to develop some regulatory marijuana samples.
I'm Shane Bancroft. I am the synthetic inspector for the CCD here. I came on board in about September of this year. My background has been in law enforcement. I was a detective in Yellowstone County on a high-end task force for several years and major crimes for about 15 years. My major role is to travel the state, make contact with retailers, suppliers, manufacturers, educate them on 948, kind of everyone's a little bit in the weeds and understand what's going on, and working together so everyone understands what the law says and what you can make, distribute, and sell in the state of Montana. And that's what I do with my days and nights.
My name's Tony King. I am a pharmacist by trade, currently working for St. Pete's Health. I also serve on the Montana Board of Pharmacy. I was involved in some of the regulatory affairs there, especially with some of the scheduling when some of this first started coming out, moving them in and out so that it was legal for Montanans to get some of the newer medications coming out. So I have a little bit of that background as well.
My name is Eric Woodland. I guess I'm not a stakeholder. I'm a member of the public. I'm a chemist by training, and my last 28 years have been consulting with companies that are trying to develop new drugs under FDA rules and making sure they comply.
We have two members online as well, it looks like. Isaac, do you want to start? You can unmute yourself and give us an introduction.
Yeah, I tried to also put on my video, but it wouldn't let me. It's all right. Like, might like to see my face. So my name is Isaac Coy. I'm the Treatment Bureau Chief within our Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities Division with DPHHS. My bureau deals primarily with Medicaid services for substance use disorders, youth and adult mental health center services, essentially. We also have our SDMI waiver, and we deal with crisis diversion funds that are currently going towards counties for mobile crisis teams and care coordination. Some of my background, I am also a licensed addictions counselor, and I've worked outpatient, intensive outpatient. I actually started in an inpatient setting. I worked at the Watch program and Connections West, both on the Warm Springs campus, for about 4 years, and then moved to outpatient, eventually started at state, and I've been with BHDD within the division in a variety of capacity functions for the last 10 years. So happy to be here, happy to help however I can.
Thank you, Isaac. And Zach?
Hey guys, apologies in advance not being able to be there in person today. Zach Shop, I'm the founder, CEO of Seed of Life Labs. We are a cannabis vertically integrated company. We cultivate, manufacture, and retail cannabis. Been doing this since about 2017-ish. We're real boots on the ground. We've got our eyes in the processes from the, cultivation side to the manufacturing and different, obviously with that comes a lot of experience in the lab. So I'm looking forward to be a part of this team and hopefully help guide some sensible legislation.
Great. And I realize I cut off Kathy too.
That's okay.
Sorry.
My name is Kathy Gann Palmer. I am the Cannabis Laboratory Program Manager here at DOR, CCP. I
originally started over at Health, but the legislature just moved me over here a couple of months ago. So I've been doing this for just over 3 years. Have learned a ton. For that, for about 15 years, I was the organics department supervisor for a environmental analytical laboratory. And so really well versed in specifically organic instrumentation, QA, QC, training, corrective actions, everything that goes along with running a laboratory. I have been living and breathing House Bill 948 for a while, trying to find solutions to some of the problems that are in it, and also helping Shane implement some of the synthetic stuff that we deal with, which is a lot. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to have all these different expertise in here to pick it together and talk about this crazy topic.
Great. Well, that's everybody. That's terrific.
And I want to reiterate, thank you all for taking time out to know. It sounds like there is a lot of knowledge and horsepower in this room. So I am not an expert. I know nothing. Till we legalized marijuana, I didn't even know what 420 meant. So this is not my realm. So I'm glad that you all can come to the table and help us with this out. Appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'll speak out too much online. So work days. Good luck.
Yeah, so I will, like I said, I just have a couple of items on the agenda here before I kind of turn it over. But I'll reiterate what Scott and Tracy said pretty eloquently, that we really appreciate you all taking the time to be here. It's not an insignificant, so it should be really valuable all around. I sent out this light draft of an agenda via email, and so I'm sure everybody has had a chance to see this. But I wanted to just do a couple of things before I turn it over. Quickly review what this advisory council is directed to do in statute, and then at the first annual meeting in a year, the advisory council shall elect a presiding officer and other officers that it considers necessary. So we've done introductions, and surprise, it was also your campaign speech for presiding officer for anybody trying to snag that title. But just quickly going through House Bill 948. The parts that I put here on the agenda. The Advisory Council shall review available research, data, and regulations of other jurisdictions related to synthetic marijuana products, including but not limited to definitions of the term impairing in relation to cannabinoids, as well as definitions of the terms artificial cannabinoids and synthetically derived cannabinoids. And B, recommendations on potential guidelines for safe methods of manufacturing, extracting, and synthesizing cannabinoids, including the sale of synthetic marijuana products. And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, the advisory committee shall compile findings and make recommendations in a report to the Economic Affairs Interim Committee in accordance with statute number regarding regulating synthetic marijuana products in the adult use marijuana market by September 15th, 2024. As we hand it over here, some things that y'all can discuss and cover is that, how many meetings do you want to have before then? Who's going to write this report? CCD is definitely here. We've got myself and Bryn. I'm sorry, Bryn, I didn't introduce you. There you go. This is Bryn Dennehy. She is the CCD office manager. So she is helping coordinate and taking some notes and what have you. She's also responsible for helping make this meeting more comfortable. So there's some snacks and water over there. Yeah, things like how many meetings to have, when to meet, where to meet, and we will have, we can provide meeting rooms. These meetings, as you can see, they do qualify as a public meeting, so members of the public are able to tune in and watch, and then these are being recorded as well, and they will be posted online for the public to review. So,
Quick question on the
please.
September 15th date. Is that when the advisory committee will end, or is that a commitment?
Yeah, I think that would count as the end date for the committee. Because that's when the report is to be delivered. You have to try to stay away from due because it makes it sound like you have a homework assignment. So through then. So with the holidays coming up, kind of gives 9 months effectively. So to you guys. And then, statute does not specify how elections for your presiding officer take place. So if anybody has any thoughts, if you want to do a secret ballot, voice vote, get some pieces of paper in here if you want. We can raise hands. If anybody would like to declare that they would like to be the presiding officer, it's that's kind of my spiel, and now it's now you're an advisory council, so there is no course directed.
I don't even really know what presiding officer means, really even. I briefly looked through statute, I didn't see much, but yeah.
Chair position.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Any volunteers? That includes folks online.
I am happy to do it. I don't really think it means much, but I mean, I'm not going to be like, the person who's like directing too much. I don't want to be this person from CCD who directs this conversation, but I'm happy to sit here and help.
Sold. Congrats.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Zach, I didn't catch that. Was that an agreed?
It's seconded, yes.
Okay. All right. Unless anybody's opposed, speak now. Nope. Okay. All right. I think that makes you the presiding officer.
Great. So it looks like we went through put everything on your agenda.
Yeah. So the only other thing that I would recommend is it does say in statute, shall elect a presiding officer and other officers that it considers necessary. So I think it would be valuable to have, say, a secretary, somebody dedicated to keeping minutes, taking notes, or being in charge of assigning out tasks and coordinating meetings. That could just be you too. I know you're not.
That would be all right too. I kind of have a feeling this is going to be fairly casual. Is that what you guys kind of like or prefer?
Marijuana should be
Super chill.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, and these are recorded meetings, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, I don't think there's really the need to take minutes necessarily.
Yeah, per statute, a recording does constitute official minutes.
Wonderful.
So.
Okay, so that's less work for everybody. So, if we go along and we want to change that, we can, but I think just for our purposes, we just have a lot of totally stellar humans in this room, and we can just kind of chat and see where the conversation leads us, and we come up with some answers to what the legislature wants. And I guess first thing I might start off with is, would anyone be interested in a little bit of education on this topic? I have a whole folder full of resources. I can give a presentation if you'd like, and obviously this will all be kind of from CCD's perspective. But I have a lot of history with synthetics and this bill in particular, and so I'm more than happy to kind of fill people in instead of you reading all of House Bill 948 and trying to figure it out. So I'm open to that, or we can jump right in. Is there any opinions on that?
We're going to come up with a report, so we'll have citations. So it sounds like you have things
Right. Yeah, I do have some citation. Yeah.
already there. So maybe a folder with those
Yeah.
accessible. So
Yep, I can do any and everything. I can share all this synthetic stuff.
I have a kind of a high level question in regards to House Bill 948 and in regards to what we're assigned to do. Because just for Keller, for instance, right now, marijuana is illegal by law. And our second point is making recommendation of potential guidelines.
Yep.
We're not gonna recommend do anything illegal.
I know.
So the idea is to recommend to change the law, is that what our job is supposed to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. House Bill 948 is full of contradictory. This bill contradicts itself all over the place.
Okay.
It's not just in the advisory council language, it's also in the main body of it as well. And so I'm not an attorney, but my gut feeling is that the legislature is really clear that they don't want synthetics being sold anywhere. And so I'm guessing this advisory council language is probably a little wasn't written quite correctly. But if that was their intent, there are other states that do regulate synthetics instead of just outright banning them. So we could look to those states to see how they do it. So yeah, maybe I'll bring this to our legal and see if they have an opinion on this.
As I'm seeing things, whether the regulated or 948 continues on and they remain illegal going forward, the biggest component I see is education. I deal with retailers and people in this business all day long who simply have no understanding of what is legal or illegal and why. And quite honestly, it's taken me several months to get caught up. I came from law enforcement. I don't have a chemistry background. So sometimes, in fact, frequently I'm on the phone with Kathy saying, yeah, but why? Yeah, but why? And if I'm asking, and I'm the face of the program out there talking to these retailers, and I'm sure that no one knows if there's any kind of, as we go forward, that's the thing I see is people, they don't even know. They're selling, they're making their living, they're paying their house payments with the profits of these things. They don't know that they're selling, what they're selling is illegal and why.
So a lot of people out, just in the general public, not necessarily licensed dispensaries, but some. But most of this is like head shops, glass shops, smoke shops, where they're selling these hemp-derived products, but they're intoxicating. And a lot of them are also synthetic. And they have no idea. They see the word hemp-derived or Farm Bill compliant, and they think they're in the clear. But with House Bill 948, that's no longer the case. These are prohibited products. And then on top of that, so House Bill 948 talks about synthetic marijuana, which to me is kind of a misnomer. I would prefer it just to be like synthetic cannabinoid hemp or synthetic cannabinoids, because all of the synthetics are derived from hemp. And so calling it synthetic marijuana doesn't quite compute in my head, right? But that's what they call it, so that's what we're stuck to. So House Bill 948 prohibits synthetic cannabinoids and synthetic marijuana no matter what. Doesn't matter if you're a licensed dispensary or just a regular retailer. It also places down some new regulations on hemp. So non-dispensaries can sell hemp products that contain THC, but that delta-9 THC has to be below 0.5 milligrams per serving and 2 milligrams per package. Because according to the federal Farm Bill, that assigns a 0.3% threshold to those products. 0.3% in a candy bar can actually be a lot of THC. And so that's how a lot of people were kind of sidestepping all these marijuana rules. They were able to sell these highly intoxicating delta-9 chocolate bars in a grocery store, but they were less than 0.3%. But they might have as much as 150 milligrams of THC in them. And so that was a massive loophole. And so that rule closes the loophole for non-dispensaries. our dispensaries can actually sell naturally derived intoxicating hemp edibles. And there is no testing requirements for them. There's no tax. There's no age gating. There's no nothing. They're basically unregulated. And so we're going to really get into the meat and potatoes of this. The other kind of crazy thing is that House Bill 948 changed the Department of Ag's definition of hemp from using Delta-9 THC to using total Delta-9 THC. So the threshold for what is hemp and marijuana in the state of Montana is now actually more strict than the federal definition.
Wait, the federal definition is total Delta-9 THC. Is that what you were saying?
The federal definition is just Delta-9, it's not total.
I thought it was total.
So I have it right here, codified. Yeah, so there's a lot of hemp products out there that meet the federal definition of hemp, but now that the state definition of hemp is more strict, those federal legal products might not be legal in the state. And so does everyone know the difference between total Delta-9 THC and Delta-9 THC? So I apologize, it's gonna get, slow me down if I'm going too fast. So federally, hemp is defined as any product with 0.3% or less of Delta-9 THC. So anything greater than that,
right?
by weight and by dry weight. Anything more than 0.3, federally, is marijuana. Anything less than that is hemp. So now when we talk about total Delta-9 THC, that is actually an equation that includes Delta-9 THC and Delta-9 THCA, which is a different compound. The acidic version, the A, the THCA, that is non-psychoactive. THC is psychoactive. THCA, with the application of heat, converts to the psychoactive THC. So the total calculation takes into account both THC and THCA, and there's a little conversion factor in there, but essentially, including that THCA in the total will bring a lot of the hemp products out of compliance with the Montana definition.
Those are the three things that I see in the field. I see synthetic cannabinoids. I see Delta-8 and HHC that's been made synthetically. I see products that have, because of total THC, in excess of 0.3%, and I see the vast majority, the biggest thing I see are serving size issues, where instead of 0.5% per milligrams per serving and 2 milligrams per package, I'm seeing something that was 30 and 60 milligrams per serving in packages in the 300 or 400 milligram range.
And just for some reference here, the marijuana rules, the limit of 10 milligrams of THC per serving and 100 per package. And so what Shane has seen in the field with hemp products is blowing out of the water the thresholds we have for legal marijuana. So these products will get people ripping high, and they're hemp, but they're kind of not, you know. So the definition of hemp was put in place to keep intoxicating products off of the general market, but the 0.3% was an inappropriate threshold for anything but biomass, because flower is light, so a low percentage on a light product is a small amount of THC, but as soon as you're talking about edibles and beverages that have a lot more mass to them, a 0.3% is actually a lot of THC.
Can I make a small comment?
Yes.
On the USDA lab testing guidelines, it does clearly state that total Delta Delta 9 THC. So this is from the USDA website. And it also advises to either total Delta 9 THC measurement or post decarboxylation method to be used. So
that's how Montana's been doing it.
that's how we've been doing total Delta 9 THC.
Okay.
Is what we've been measuring because we were following the USDA guidelines for lab testing.
It's interesting because in code, it's not total.
No, in code, and then they later clarified that.
Okay.
Yes, what they actually meant. So with that, and they're both on the USDA official website.
Great. Would you mind
Yes.
sending that to me?
Yes.
That's actually good for us because that means the egg has been doing it the same as House Bill 948.
Yes, because otherwise like, oh, I've been doing it wrong this whole time.
And your method, the method of the analytical lab is just
It's USDA. Well, we're ISO. Yeah, we're USDA.
because it was reviewed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's how most hemp labs. But I
Good.
don't know of any other.
That's great.
Lab that is not used.
Great. I know that's a lot. If there's any questions or if you want to discuss anything else,
Two things. I mean, Kristen mentioned there's some, you mentioned there's ambiguities in the law that.
Yeah.
But secondly, the CANRA, I know, had sent a letter to, Washington.
Yep.
Heads of, the Senate and House Representatives, whoever it was. But they were looking for amendments in the Farm Bill.
Yes.
And did anything happen there? Because that would affect, at least how we would see things here in Montana.
Yes. So they did send out their proposed fix to the Farm Bill. However, there's some procedural thing that I don't understand that kept their proposed actions from being a viable option. There's something where like some federal agency oversees the Farm Bill and CANRA suggested that a different agency take it over and that's not gonna work. And so the suggestions are out there in space for people to see and appreciate, but it sounds like they, because of procedural stuff, can't be applied. So, but there are other agencies out there, including hemp folks and other marijuana folks that are trying to fix the Farm Bill to keep these synthetic products from going even more crazy than they are. And so would it be helpful if I talked a little bit about why synthetics are bad?
I think so.
Okay. So the reason we're at where we are with synthetic cannabinoids and synthetic marijuana is because, again, to the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill defines hemp as, we already talked about the 0.3%, but then it also goes on to say that anything that's a derivative of hemp is hemp. And so what that has opened up the door for is for chemists essentially to take legal hemp CBD isolate, that's less than 0.3% THC, and apply a synthetic synthesis chemistry to it to convert it into essentially any other cannabinoid you want. So you can convert CBD with solvents and acids and make delta 8 THC and delta 9 THC and any other cannabinoid you could ever think of, cannabinoids that aren't even found in nature. And all of the people that are doing this are choosing to make intoxicating synthetic cannabinoids so that they can sidestep state legal marijuana programs. Because if you're selling delta 8, it's not the same as state delta 9. And so you don't have to test it. It's not taxed. You don't have to only sell it to people 21 and older. Additional to that is that synthetic chemistry also creates a lot of side byproducts. So it's kind of it's a dirty reaction. Some people are better at others than making it a more proficient reaction, but really what's happening here is that people will make a 70% pure Delta 8 THC product, but then the other 30% they don't know what it is. It's a bunch of other cannabinoids. It could be a bunch of other side byproducts that we don't know the identity of. None of this stuff has gone through the appropriate health and human safety testing. We don't know what the side effects of any of this stuff is. These companies making these synthetic cannabinoids are only out there for a cash grab, and so they generally don't take the time to purify any of this stuff. And so basically the consumers of these products are lab experiments. They're consuming something that's intoxicating and not regulated within the marijuana program or the hemp program. And they're full of compounds that are untested for health and human safety. And they're making a ton of money. So there's no regulation at all. It's a big problem. And kind of what happens is as states wisen up, and some states will prohibit it, like Montana, other states will regulate it. These big companies just move around. It's like, okay, Montana's being a pain, we'll go to some other state that doesn't care as much. And so that's the big reason why they're a human health and safety concern. There's absolutely no regulation, no testing, no human health and consumer safety input. There's nothing. So that is the basis for why House Bill 948 was created. And that's kind of why we're all here today. And a lot of these synthetic cannabinoids, they're sourced from hemp, and according to the Farm Bill, they're derived from hemp, so they're hemp, even though they're intoxicating. A lot of them are more intoxicating than Delta-9. One of them, HHP, is reported to be 30 times more intoxicating than Delta-9. Some of them, like Delta-8, also called diet weed, is less intoxicating than Delta-9, but you just consume more of it. So, yeah, kind of a lot to digest there, but it's all stemmed from the Farm Bill. Just these small little language and word implications have kind of just opened up this market. And so for the Farm Bill, you've probably heard of spice or K2, right? That's synthetic cannabinoids as well. But that makes me think of like these drug deals behind dumpsters and alleys and shit. But now with the Farm Bill, they legalized it. And so now that's why we're seeing it just out in the public like normal in flash shops, it's just out there. You can buy it online, easy peasy, no big deal. And also with these products becoming more prevalent, we've actually seen the increase in adverse reporting of these health effects in the nation as well. Because usually what happens is that, a kid, since there's no age gating to these products, children will get their hands on them. They'll eat a ton of it because it's in the shape of a gummy bear, because there's no regulation out there saying it can't be appealing to children. And then they'll consume way too much and they'll have a really bad reaction. And so that's what we're here to deal with. Any questions?
Kathy, I think mine is just a kind of a follow-up with his question, and maybe a report from legal will address it, but I've seen this in other bills as well. Is it a foregone conclusion that this committee needs to make a recommendation on how to regulate synthetic cannabinoids versus right? So would you rather have a scientist or a lawyer on this committee for DOJ? I professionally, I'm fairly conflicted being on this project. It's scheduled federally. It's currently scheduled state, and my group is the enforcement group enforcing those laws. And when I was, I think, sent over here because it's marijuana, it's in the narcotics, right? And so I'm here just to determine how DOJ can
to best support y'all on this project. And when I was first, this was put on my radar, I thought it was a committee about basically bolstering the existing law and keeping it. And so I also did the kind of the safety piece. Totally support the that aspect of this of not wanting to get a dangerous product, basically to remove that aspect. So I support that. But as far as working on a project that essentially is a legalization project, it's really not. So you want a lawyer or you want a scientist?
That's a great question.
And we can talk later. I mean, those are what we have. And then you can talk me into if you think that having enforcement at the table is the right thing. I mean, I want to strengthen our partnership with CCD because there's times where stuff that y'all regulate turns into a criminal investigation.
Yeah.
And so I'm all about collaboration, but I'm also very just kind of hyper aware of conflicts of interest, or conflict with law enforcement code of ethics.
Yeah.
Oath of office.
Does anyone else have an opinion on who, if we want an attorney or science-based?
You know,
Yeah.
call me greedy.
So we've had dispensaries who have like had their license revoked and then switched to selling these products and have the same name, and you might know who I'm talking
I'm
about.
familiar with one of those instances.
Yeah, and so like this is all kind of wrapped up in the same problem, because as CCD, since they're not licensed, we can't do anything to them. But maybe you guys could, and I have no idea how that all works. But like, is there anything in your opinion, knowing that we both know who we're talking about?
Sure. Well, I think with the parts of 948 clearly outlawing it, that's addressed that aspect of it, and so there's remedy with that into this. And then and so I can't speak to active criminal investigations, but that certainly has. But what I'll say is prior to that, we were dealing with getting qualitative lab results to be able to, from our criminal justice, to determine what was being sold at these locations, whether it was or not. And so those were some of the challenges that we had with that. And Crime Lab is in the process of getting accredited staff and technology to be able to generate that. And I think they've done agriculture for some testing.
And we are now too. Quite haven't yet, but we're prepared.
Yeah. And so, I guess that is an aspect of the, because we will be dealing with, retail locations that are selling illegal substances. So, if the end game or the end state for synthetic cannabinoids is that it lands into a regulatory environment like cannabis, then kind of those same rules will be in play where law enforcement will be dealing with folks that are outside regulatory sphere. So, but my professional conflict is just if the committee's purpose is to essentially make recommendations on the legalization of synthetic cannabinoids.
Yeah.
I've seen an email from the Forensic Science Division that there is a scientist that was at the hearing but not called, and so she's familiar with the issues and what. I don't see her hand raised in the email, but at least FSD was familiar with some of the issues with this bill. And I don't know if y'all found this, but one of her notes is that it kind of conflates the natural cannabinoids with true synthetics, which just kind of treats it all as one thing. Anyway, so I want to be helpful because it's also contrary to my core way I operate to not be helpful and collaborative. So
Yeah.
I guess think about it and let me know, because they do state they want someone from justice here. And I haven't gotten clear direction from, like, I just on Monday, when he sent the abbreviated agenda out, I kind of latched onto section 5 there. That was the first time that was where that was part of this. Thank you. Sorry, we'll get off my.
Oh, no, you're totally fine.
And I'm sure, I mean, I have similar conflicts of interest. And then maybe it might be helpful in answering direction where you might go by first finding a definition for what we mean under synthetic. Absolutely. Marijuana. And because the way I'm just seeing is that, well, we're just creating pharmaceutical products and there's rules and regulations out there for that whole industry. Why would we make a parallel system, but there's a system already for creating pharmaceutical products? So that's why, well, if we define what we mean and might even have to might clarify it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm kind of on the, it is a Schedule 1 for pharmacy, and when we went medical marijuana, I was asked by our federal representative, why don't you want to sell it at your pharmacy? That's not what I went to school for. I'm not selling nickel and dime bags at my pharmacy. It's not what I'm here for. So, yeah, I get what you're saying, where it's a pharmaceutical product, but it isn't.
Yeah, it's not illegal.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I kind of, yeah.
Epidiolex is an FDA approved drug.
Right.
I mean,
There's a few.
So those
Right.
exist.
Which is one that I helped kind of move through the scheduling system. We had a problem for a long time. The way it works is every legislative session, anything that's changed federally, we have to go back through, push it through a bill, have it changed, and then we have to pass it in rule too at the Board of Pharmacy to match it. So we've been 2 years behind forever, and there's no real good way to clean that up. So when Epidiolex was changed, we were 2 years behind that change, and then when they finally descheduled it, we don't have that problem. So, but that, yeah, very familiar, but the same thing. To me, I think we're all going to be a little conflicted. I don't think there's any way to get out of that. But for your question, and if there's a volunteer, I think that's who we'd want to have first, rather than someone that's pushed to be here. Yeah. But that's just where I'm coming. And for the synthetic definition, I would be interested to see what other states have used. I think we don't need to reinvent that. I think we can just look at the examples and see if there's a good one we like.
Yeah, there's a few states that are ahead of us on that have defined some things. The thing to keep in mind, at least for the marijuana program, is to make sure that we don't include decarboxylation in the definition of synthetic, because that is what outlaw all the edible products in our state. And so there's certain things we have to be aware of when we do that definition. And then the statutory definition says, a synthetic cannabinoid is anything that is made artificially through chemical synthesis or biological, something like that. Basically, you can't use algae to make cannabinoids. And so that's, or engineered, like genetically engineered. So that piece, the biology side of the definition is like really clear, but the chemical synthesis will need a little bit of help to make sure that we achieve what we want to do without also hurting the state legal industry. And so next meeting, I can bring the resources that I've saved of other states, and then we can start talking about that. That is something you're charged to do, is come up with a definition for synthetic. The other one that's going to be harder, in my opinion, is coming up with a definition for pairing. I would just warn that pairing has like a pharmacology and like a biology explanation with receptors and all this chemistry that's in your body, biochemistry. From my experience watching other states deal with this, the more you can stay away from the pharmacology, the better, because we don't know the pharmacology of all these synthetics. Delta 8 might work differently on a receptor than HHC or HHP. They both kind of produce this high, but we don't really know if it's the same high or they act the same way on these receptors. And so that would just be my one thing to kind of put out there for you guys, is particularly for pairing, to stay away from pharmacology. And that's going to be hard because a lot of people, when they think pairing, they think alcohol. But it's different. It's a different process. And I have a good webinar that I watched where they talk about pairing and how actually difficult this will be to define. And in our report, we can just say that too. If we come to this understanding, we're like, we can't define this. This is just too much. We can say that in our report.
Have other states come up with a acceptable definition? I mean, that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's acceptable along the lines.
They've tried as well, but then, so like, when you use the term pairing, it's going to be used in terms of like enforcement. When you're driving and crossing over the line, you get pulled over, and there's no way for people to know if you're impaired because of THC. There's no BAC test for that out in the field for law enforcement, because it stays in your system for so long. You may have imbibed a month ago, got pulled over and had a THC test, and it could come back positive, but were you impaired because you smoked a month ago? So like it has different implications down the line, things to be aware of.
So like, Steve, you may, it's been a long time since I was a patrol cop. I've written a DUI in well over 15 years, but certainly they're writing marijuana DUIs and things like that. There's some level of impairment they're measuring when they're pursuing these charges, correct? I know there's DREs out there and they're drug recognition experts, officers. Oh, yes, right. And I was wondering how they doing it. There's no way of
5 nanograms per mil at the time of the draw. That's state law.
That's considered impairment at that time.
It's deemed just like 08. You're assumed to be impaired, even if you claim you're not. The state assumes you're impaired.
The thing with marijuana is that it stays in your system for a long time. Mm-hmm. So you can have it in your system and have a positive detect on your blood draw, but it could be from an edible that you ate a week ago. Mm-hmm. And so
the state law is Delta 9. It's not any of the metabolites as well.
Right.
It's strictly Delta 9.
It is just Delta 9.
Yeah.
By blood draw.
Yeah, blood draw. It's basically analogous to alcohol. They just replace the 08 with 5. So all the other requirements still apply.
And their blood analysis can detect just Delta 9.
Yes. Yeah.
So the other
thing, through the crime lab.
Okay, and the other thing is like some of these, so these are all isomers of each other, right? So Delta 8 and Delta 9 and Delta 10, they all have the same molecular formula. And so depending on the analysis they're using, they actually could be picking up other deltas.
They do in their report though.
They do, okay, yeah. So they can separate them out.
Yeah, I believe they report the carboxylic acid, which is not impairing, not psychoactive.
Right.
And I believe they can report others, but only if they're psychoactive. So in other words, they can't put a laundry list of non-impairing ones on as far as the state's definition.
This is all really bringing me back to when I was a P4 student. I did a rotation at the crime lab, and we tried to figure out how to do 10-hydroxy and 10-carboxy and try and make it level with alcohol and stuff. So it was a 4-week quick rotation, but got to work with Jim. It was great. So this is rehashing a lot of this back that I thought I buried. So
sorry about that.
No, it's good. I think that's part of why I'm here. But Eric, I had a question. When she was talking about the companies that are coming in and making some of these wild synthetics, you in that side, what are you seeing? Are you seeing a lot of the same thing? Are you getting a lot of the requests from that?
No, I see strictly FDA approved drugs. I only deal with stuff that's going to go through the FDA process. It does sound, I don't know how old everybody is, but it sounds just like designer drugs back in the 80s. Is it not? It's just now it's marijuana instead of lab from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. So synthetic cannabinoids have been around for a while, but the Farm Bill just kind of opened it up and made it legal. And so they're kind of everywhere now.
So is CCD, I know maybe you don't have an opinion officially, but is CCD trying to regulate synthetic in an analogous way that it's regulating just straight marijuana THC now?
No, so per House Bill 948, all synthetics are prohibited.
Right.
So our marching orders through this bill are to go out there and get them off shelves. And that's what Shane does a lot of. And he's been hitting hard the retailers, but we also, if we see it in dispensaries, we make a note of it too.
Right, I meant more as far as this committee goes, because it sounds like we're being tasked to now provide the legislature with a possible way for them to regulate synthetic like they are.
That's the big
THC.
question, yeah.
Or maybe confirm them and saying, no, that's a really wise bill, that we should keep it illegal.
My personal opinion as a chemist is that we don't have a regulatory framework in place to adequately ensure the safety of synthetics. Because if we were to test it like marijuana, sure, we'll test for pesticides and solvents and all this other stuff, but we're not testing for any of the unknowns that they're creating, and we don't know what we don't know. And so there's no way that we can ensure they're safe, even if they're tested.
To play devil's advocate, we probably, as a scientific community, we don't have enough data to know that the non-Delta 9 and THC doesn't have some pretty dangerous chemicals in it as well. I mean, there are hundreds of chemicals. We haven't studied each of those individually to say these are fine, these aren't.
Absolutely, yeah. And
So to me, it seems kind of analogous. It's just what the source is, that people are still putting pretty similar things in their body, which is a huge mixture of chemicals.
Yes, exactly. It's a cocktail.
Right.
It's alphabet soup chemistry.
So I guess I'm wondering, I mean, it sounds like some people really don't want to go towards giving the legislature any way to legalize synthetic, but we have already kind of done that with THC, haven't we? I mean, we don't really know what the 14th chemical in marijuana is really doing to people who use it a lot, but the state still said it's okay.
Yeah, and then that's backed up by a lot more like anecdotal data, right? From years and years and years and years of it. And then just within the last few years, the feds have opened up the ability for researchers to test marijuana now. So there is actually a huge influx of data coming in from Delta 9. So Delta 9 do that, exactly, and no one's dying. And so Delta 9, it's okay, but these other ones, no.
Has the state gotten reports of people dying from synthetic cannabinoids?
The only death that I'm aware of came from a child who consumed Delta 8. And I don't know many of the details, but it was within the year.
What was the big report Colorado put out with the overdose and the ER visits? And the ER visits in Colorado went up 300 and some odd percent first whatever months that they legalized it.
Was that for cannabinoid hyperemesis?
Sure.
Maybe it might have been it, because I know that's been on the rise. But I'm not sure specifically.
I'll see what I can dig up for the next one. But there's data out there in other states about the rise of not necessarily deaths, but clearly kids are eating gummies.
Yeah.
Because they're gummies.
Yeah, and it's mostly, the unregulated hemp/synthetic market, because there's no age gating on those products, and there's no rules and regulations in place to make them look not appealing to children. These people are selling, they literally look like burritos, gummy bears, licorice, all the stuff that your kids would pick up at the store. Whereas in our market in Montana and other states, like you can't make your edibles to look like a consumer product that already exists.
Just for my background too, I know what's the number on the dispensaries that we have? I know some of this stuff is being sold at the shelf in the gas stations and whatnot, but what number of dispensaries are we looking at today?
Like, how many are there?
Yeah.
I'll look that up right now, thank you.
It seems like most of our dispensaries are pretty good about not selling these products. It's still pretty new and we're finding them for sure, but we're definitely finding them more out in the public.
The manufacturers are almost exclusively out of state, when it is not uncommon for a manufacturer to contact me directly and say, I thought we're doing was legal and above board, and I direct them to 948, and I'm seeing even in the last couple of months, different formulations coming out with different names I've never seen before. Again, when I came to this kind of cold, so I burned Kathy's phone up with, and what is this? And she'll get back to you, because she hasn't heard it either. So things are changing almost as we go along. It's an ever-changing world. I mean, almost by the week, depending on where I go in the state. And while this, I don't know, a whole other can of worms, but mushroom-based products are being replaced by these. Oftentimes, even distributors are taking back the banned products and replacing them with mushroom-based products. On like a one-to-one trade basis. It doesn't fall anywhere under 948 at all. So it's outside the realms. Again, I don't want a whole can of worms in this conversation, but we're going definitions down the road and things we're concerned about regulating. It's again to say this world changes almost by the week. I'll put it there.
When you say mushroom-based, are you saying psilocybin type products?
They're saying it's not, although to my knowledge, we haven't done any testing in that regard. But they say just like there's again, stepping into your world I know nothing about. There's indicating they're mushroom-based products and they're
A lot, they call them like neogenic, or like a lot of this like lion's mane and reishi mushrooms. They're kind of like fatty right now. I don't think we've come. Some of them might be psilocybin. If they are, the advertising's really not playing that up. But they will say things like it elevates your thinking, or take your mind to another level. So like, it's not calling out psilocybin, but it kind of makes you think it might be,
Jumping in real fast, Zach, here on mine. One thing I have seen with the mushroom gummies and extracts is they're using Amanita muscaria and like legal mushrooms that do contain muscimol or other intoxicating compounds to do the same thing, trying to, just circumvent legislation and sell these products. But, one thing to jump back real fast, I was curious about, one of the challenges we're going to have is the definition of impairing, because like we were saying, there's these other, for example, mushrooms, reishi, lion's manes that are arguably not impaired. And similar to these synthetic cannabinoids, I mean, do we have to use that word, or can we change it to intoxicated or another better blanket definition to hopefully make our jobs a little easier? Does anyone know?
Absolutely not. I mean,
From a law enforcement perspective, what word's better? Impairment or intoxicant?
Well, when you're talking, generally impairment is what law enforcement's looking at, the ability to safely operate a motor vehicle. And then, if you're It is a good question. It depends on what their intent was on wanting to determine that, if it really is, because right now, what we have to prove with that case is that their ability to safely operate a motor vehicle has been diminished by the substance that they have consumed. And they've set levels um, on cannabis and alcohol, and then we'll have crime lab people come in and talk about the amount of methamphetamine that might have been shown up in the blood, alcohol, and so the DUI drug cases run the gamut depending on what the substance is, but impairment is what law enforcement is most concerned with, as opposed to whether somebody is intoxicated. We have not had a law, a lot of states have a law where it's illegal to be under the influence of meth, or under the influence of whatever, and we don't have that. It's not illegal to be under the influence of that or intoxicated by that walking down the street unless there's other conduct with it or they're driving a car. So I kind of live in the impairment.
Sure. But using a cell phone impairs your ability to drive.
Absolutely, yeah.
But right, it doesn't mean they're intoxicated.
Exactly, yeah.
And let me jump in real quick and say we have, to answer your question earlier, Tony, we have 322 cannabis licensees, businesses. 181 of them operate dispensaries, and there are a total of 436 dispensary sites. And then, listening to this conversation, I just wanted to point out that where it's under 4A, where it says definitions of the term impairing, that's following up the advisory council shall review available research data and regulations of other jurisdictions, including but not limited to. So, down below under sub 5, if there is a conversation that you all end up having and make a decision as to whether the word impairing is the right word or something else, that can just be a part of that recommendation, rather than, I don't think it's, the way I read it, it's not saying you must define impairing. So it's something that you can kind of discuss out in that. And then, kind of along a similar line, the conversation from earlier about potential conflicts of interest. I think that's an excellent preamble to such a report.
Clarification for you as well. So like if I go out and I find this Colorado study that I was seen a couple of years ago, this being a public meeting and a public task force, whatever we want to call it, in my world in the Board of Pharmacy, I can't send it to everyone without sending it. Like it needs to be public information because that could constitute a meeting. So my request or I think clarification is do I just wait for the next meeting to bring that to everyone's attention to where it can be discussed? Or am I free to email it out to this group?
That's a great question. I'm not an attorney. I will make note of that and find out how that kind of thing can be should be covered logistically. Because you're right, to your point, this is a public meeting and really every work product that we create could be FOIA-able. Sure.
So I'm interested in a lot of what Kathy offered as, I just want everyone to be kind of on the same platform when we start. So it'd be easier if she could email some stuff out for us to review. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, and I think so long as they're public documents, rather than I don't know if there would be an issue with something that's like a journal article that's behind a paywall or something. I'm not sure how we would handle that, but if we're emailing links to a Colorado study that is on a public website, I would suspect that would be fine so long as when we discuss that item, its availability is made obvious to the public. So we do have, we've got, I think we had 12 earlier. We've got 11 folks online right now, and this will be posted as a recording. So this is a topic that will garner some public interest for sure.
When you check on that, could you verify whether it's okay for us to contact each other outside
Yes.
the meeting as well?
Yeah,
I think WP just got in trouble for that. I don't know the full details, but
okay, that's an excellent point, and yeah, I will.
the people who were opposed complained that they may have pre-decided a few things before the actual public
something
meeting.
kind of outside of it.
Yeah,
Okay,
even
yeah.
though there may not have been, just created a perception.
Okay, yeah, and yeah, this where CCD is certainly interested in making this a public, transparent, above board process. So yeah, I'll find out how best to handle those kinds of things. I don't know when you know, some of these statutes about meetings were written, but the way everybody relies on email so much now. Yeah, excellent point. We want to make sure that any of that is available and transparent. So I'll find out the best way to do that.
So we're kind of coming close-ish on time. Is there any opinion on how often you want to meet, the manner in which you meet?
Who travel? You here travel?
And obviously, virtual is an option, but if you want to come in person, that's absolutely fine too. And be aware we do have a budget for that. Yeah, I'm not sure how that works though.
Following this meeting today, I'll send you guys everything's for an email with W-9 and a spreadsheet for travels.
I think we're all good with Zoom meetings. I do think one more in person would probably be. So a little old school, it's still tough for me to get totally out of in person. I think there's a lot more to be said for networking and so forth. But I think Zoom meetings, I'd say monthly, is that a lot?
We can always switch to, you know, if it doesn't work one month or.
I'm more than happy to be as flexible as needed.
Hopefully maybe we'll be done after 3 months.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important we get a good jump on it.
Yeah.
Kathy, do you know when we're supposed to be presenting this to the interim committee?
Statute just says we have to have a report by, when was it?
9/15.
Yeah, September 25th, September 15th, 2024.
So I don't think there's a presentation of the data. I would imagine it's just something we provide via hard copy or email or some form to the interim committee.
Gotcha.
And as far as the makeup of this committee, or this is what was dictated, if we find somebody else that might be valuable, or obviously DOJ needs to be here, but what dictates who set this table?
Statute did.
Yeah, the makeup of this was defined by statute. I don't have that right in front of me, but yeah, it said a member from Justice, a member from Ag, and
Could we have a,
so forth.
could we have a, if you will, a guest speaker come here for additional education or information that wasn't necessarily one of the members, but to educate us?
I don't see why not. I will verify that that's the case, but I can't imagine that there would be a problem with that. Using I mean, if we can use, you know, publicly available studies and documents that are out there, why not an individual? Makes sense to me, but I'll find out for sure.
Great. Is there anything else? Questions, concerns?
You want to have the group work on, say, I don't know that finding one of the definitions is low hanging fruit, but it's a clear, specific item to work on.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I have a couple things saved for synthetic and chemically derived synthesis, stuff like that, from other states. It's been a while since I've updated that. That would be an easy one for me and my team to work on because we're so engrossed in other states' stuff. But maybe if someone would want to take on impairing and intoxicating, I also have a good webinar to suggest for that as well that I can throw into the mix. But basically, at this point, if any of you have any great resources to bring to the table, maybe that could be like a big gathering of information for next week, and we can kind of sort through that. We'll go from there, and then we'll send out some schedule for our monthly cadence here and see what everyone's schedule looks like. And if you have any questions at all, I'm happy to help. I felt like I did a lot of talking, but like I said, I unfortunately live and breathe this document, and I'm happy to talk about it and educate as well. So if there's any gaps in any knowledge, feel free to let me know, and I can, like I said, I'm happy to do a presentation. Maybe it would be kind of cool, Shane, if we put together a lot of your pictures of what you're actually seeing in the field to kind of give a feel for like how crazy and ridiculous some of these products are. And that would be kind of fun to me.
I'm the point, so.
Great. Thanks for the meeting, guys. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, I'll offer just a couple of quick closing remarks. I've gotten a couple of comments here from our communications director, Jason Sleeve, who helped set this up. So for our future meetings, whether we're remote or in person, we will utilize Zoom just to, it makes it easier to record and lets the public join in to watch the action. And then you mentioned also it's about a 24-hour turnaround on the recordings. So if any of you guys missed anything or any members of the public there want to check it out, we'll get those up. It'll be about 24 hours. And that's all I got. If there are any other questions, comments, concerns, statements of disbelief.
Anything we can work on until we meet next time, just so that we're not idle for a month?
Yeah, why don't we work on gathering information on intoxicating and impairing. If you have any great ideas for defining synthetic and chemical synthesis, and anything else, guys? And just if in your searching for data and research on this, you find anything you think is worth sharing, I would just kind of collect it all, and then.
What about the second one? The one is definitions, but the second mandate is potential guidelines for safe methods.
Safe method. So manufacturing. This might be kind of your wheelhouse, actually.
I think that's why I'm more interested in it.
Yeah, sure.
But it sounds like a daunting task, so I wouldn't want to wait too long.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be awesome if you want to dig into that. I know like GMP is a thing, but I'm not a GMP person. And it sounds like maybe you're well more versed in that. That would be, yeah, absolutely. And John, you kind of came from an FDA background too.
Yes.
And so if you want to dive into that, that's totally fine.
Happy to do
I think Zach probably would.
Zach too? Yeah, sorry guys, I'm super familiar with all of our backgrounds yet, but if you see something that's calling to you and seems interesting and you want to dive into it, by all means, do it.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, in the next probably week or so, we'll get out another poll to see what time works for everybody in about a month. So, terrific.
Hey guys, thanks so much.
I'm thinking